what if I go to Islamic hell instead of Christian heaven? Let me rewind. Let me show you the comment and the video that inspired this topic. I made a video recently called My Religious Beliefs, Christianity is About Finding Redemption. Several comments came in, but this is the one that I really think is worth addressing and exploring more so than the other ones. I see a comment here from one of my viewers, and here it is. It says, Nate Miller is his name. He says, but Nick, what if you die and find out that Allah exists and Islam was actually true all along? I mean, Muhammad rode up to heaven on a chariot, and it has to be true because it says it in the Quran, end quote. So let me address that. You know, if you are part of a religious faith, then ultimately you have to make a decision. This is what I'm going to choose to believe. And many people have chosen Islam. Many people have chosen Christianity. Those are two of the most popular religions in the world. And ultimately, what if Muslims are right? Well, ultimately, my question, and no, I haven't done my research. I'm Nick Shell. I don't do my research. I make YouTube videos for people to talk about it, and then I read the comments and then make more videos based off those comments. I'm not going to do my research. This is my research, so put in the comments. Tell me about if I'm not Muslim. Therefore, when I die, what happens to me? Is there hell? If, you know, in the Islamic religion, do Muslims believe in hell? I don't quite know the answer to that. More importantly, what is Muslim hell like? I have no idea. I have no idea as a Christian what Muslim hell is like. I read in the Christian Bible about what Christian hell is like, as far as being separated from God, darkness, weeping, gnashing of teeth, burning, apparently being in excruciating pain, you know, all these things. But I don't know that Muslims believe in a hell like that. I think, from what I understand, Christians have like the worst afterlife out of all the religions if you end up not choosing to obey their God. Ultimately, though, so yeah, what would hell be like? For what Muslim hell, what is it like? Tell me about it, because ultimately here's what I'm getting at. Let's say I live the rest of my life being the best Christian I can be, which is ultimately, if I were to define that, acknowledging that we're all born sinners, that none of us are perfect, but yet we still choose to love our neighbor as ourselves. For me, it's that simple. I live that life. Okay, at the end of it, I get to the afterlife, and it's Allah. It's not the God that I know. And what's the worst that could happen to me as a Christian who did his best to love his neighbor as himself, and to recognize that I am very imperfect, and to work on myself throughout my whole life, which also has kind of a Buddhist idea to it too, I believe. What's the worst that would happen to me in the Muslim hell if Muslims are right? That's my question. And it's funny, I would make a separate question for people who are Jewish, but everything I've studied about the Jewish religion, they don't really necessarily have hell. They don't necessarily really even have heaven. I mean, things are so vague about what happens after you die. With the Jewish faith is more about life on this earth, whereas Christianity is making your life better here, but then also it's very much focused on heaven. But yeah, what if I am wrong? I mean, that's what faith is. Faith is being honest and saying, you know what, maybe I am wrong, but I choose to believe this thing. That's what faith is. I think honestly, even people without religion still have to go through this in their mind. I mean, at some point, even if they believe it's a black screen once you die and nothing ever happens after that and your consciousness ceases to exist, there's still some amount of, well, that was a decision they made to believe that, even though they can't prove it none of us can know until we're dead, right? And then no one can make a video on YouTube saying, here's what happens. So yeah, I could be wrong. All of us could be wrong. And many of us are wrong, because whatever your theory is about what happens during die, most people are wrong on the planet. Because there's not one religion that just consumes most of the world. There's several major religions, but to even say half the world is this, we can't even say that. So by default, most people are wrong about what happens when you die. And only one group of people can be right, even if it is the group of people who say there's nothing after you die, you cease to exist. Well, what's funny is those people are more of the minority in the world. The people who believe that, not at best agnostic, even if they're not atheists, they're agnostic, just it's a black screen and that's it, and you're done. But they're sort of the minority on a global scale. So most people are going to be wrong about this. Now, ultimately, and I'm familiar with the phrase Pascal's wager, and I'm not saying this is the reason I'm a Christian. I'm acknowledging it exists, because I can't make a video like this without someone bringing it up. So I'm going to bring it up. Pascal's wager. I'll make it simple for you. It's the concept that as a Christian who believes Christ died for their sins, and they choose to love their neighbor as themselves, and read the Bible and live accordingly to what God wants for us, as far as what God says is moral versus what is not moral, what is pleasing to God versus what is not pleasing to God. So that if that's how you live your life, and then you will be saved at the end of time when we are all judged before God. Okay, so for me, if I do all of that and I'm wrong, and whatever happens next, Pascal's wager basically says, what did I really lose in the end? I still lived a good moral life. I did my best to improve myself and help other people, and not be prideful, knowing that we're all born as sinners and we all need to be saved, and we all have issues and we're all crazy. We all need help. We all need to be saved. But if I'm wrong about all of that, what's the worst that can happen to me? And since I don't know what Muslims believe about hell, or do they believe that good Christians would still go to their hell if they have a hell? What's the best case scenario for a Christian in the Muslim afterlife? That's my question, because I can't think of another religion that would have a worse hell, since Jewish people don't really have hell. And then I guess, like, what if you're Buddhist, then you could come back as a roach or something, or Hindu, you'd come back as a cow and then get eaten. But so yeah, Pascal's wager. What's the worst that could happen, even if I was wrong as a Christian? But when you look at it as any kind of gamble, because we do have to put faith in some idea of what happens to us after this life, we have to bank. Most people in the world that aren't Christians have to bank on their belief that Christianity is not right, and that they themselves will not end up in Christian hell, which is separation from God and torment and darkness and all these things. Because Christianity ultimately, what's the sin? What's the worst sin that you can commit? Not believing in God, by not specifically believing that you do not need to be saved, that you're a good person to begin with. So if you believe that you're a good person to begin with, you don't need to be saved. You don't need God. And that's blasphemy. So by not believing, that is the unforgivable sin, in essence. That's my paraphrase of it. Pascal's wager says, if you're a Christian and you are obedient to God and his teachings, then what's the worst that could happen to you, even if you were wrong about that? It seems that with Christianity, you have the least to lose if you're wrong in the end. But if you're right in the end, then you have the most to look forward to. So, and for all I know, maybe there's some afterlives of religions that are even worse than Christian hell. But again, I want to start with Muslim hell. And again, I'm not going to do my research. This is my research. I care more about what random people on the internet will say in the comment section than I do what's going to say anywhere else in the internet. I like to study a live and active culture in real time, real people who are not professionals, random guys in the elevator just like me. So, what if I go to Muslim hell and I don't go to Christian heaven. What is your version of truth? Comments belong right here.